Okay.
Okay, so thank you all for joining us again for the second class of this four-part marriage class series. Last week we spoke about marriage in general, a little bit about intimacy. Today we're going to dive a little deeper into, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into relationships and kind of some of the tools that we need to take in order to strengthen our marriage. So one of the things, and communication specifically. So one of the things that we all want is we want to feel complete, and we want everything to be whole in our lives. And for many of us, our desire to have this is, and I think this is a big challenge of this generation as a whole, is with the advance of technology, is we want instant gratification, because we're so used to having everything at our fingertips. Nowadays, fast food, you can just drive in, you pick up the food, it's good to go. It started with Google Shopping, now with Amazon. You want something, you just pull out your phone. Oh, we're short on this. Boom, you add it on your phone, and next thing you know, you have it. When I was growing up, my dad used to call it. He says we're part of the instant generation, and this was 25 years ago, 30 years ago, as I was growing up. And the instant generation has only gotten more instant and more. We want things quicker. And he used the example of instant coffee that, in the olden days, you'd take the beans, you'd grind it up, you'd roast your beans, you'd finally have your perfect coffee. Nowadays, we're happy to, pull out a Taster's Choice, 1, 2, 3, you got your spoon, you're done, your coffee's ready to go. Funny story I have, when I think about, my kids growing up even more in an instant generation, this happened with, I think it was Zalman. I think they were raising money for something for school or something like that. And, and he called my father and he said, he said, Zadie, would you give me $5 for whatever it was for the school project? So he says, okay, I'll send you $5. And he hung up the phone and walked out to the mailbox thinking that the $5 are going to already be in the mail because he thought it was like email, so that's how accustomed to instant we are, in this world. And this really takes place and takes over our entire lives, that everything we want is instant. If we want something, to be delivered, we expect it to be handed out immediately, immediately and to be available right at the moment that we want it. And this really kind of goes into work as well, is that when we have a project, we have an idea, we have something new, whether it's work or not, but we have something that we want to accomplish, that we don't have the patience to wait through the process to allow this thing to happen. And we just want this instantly. We want it, we want it yesterday. And when we're not able to achieve that immediate result, we're so down on ourselves, and we beat ourselves, and we say, we're failures because we didn't keep up with what society tells us. Another way to look at it is that we're so caught up in not feeling like we have the time. We don't have the time to do everything, and we don't even have the time for ourselves. We don't have the time to cook healthy meals. We don't have the time to take the time to be with our children. We don't have the time.
I want similar story, and he's on air about.
I'm going to mute everybody. All right. We don't have the time to take care of ourselves in the way that we ideally should be taking care of ourselves. And that same struggle really.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, sorry, we're at a shiver service. It's whatever.
It's all good. We're happy you're here. We're just gonna mute you.
All right. And so all of this struggle of instant gratification and not really wanting to work so hard and not wanting to have to fight for what we really need spills out into our relationships as well. And we see this in nowadays with you know, we're so surrounded by media, whether it be social media, TV, whatever it is, that we expect our relationships to be what we think we see on TV. And you know, there's two types of relationships you see on TV. You see, you know, the really bad ones, and those make for crime scenes and you know, movies and, you know, horror movies. And then you have the perfect relationships where the relationships are, you know, just everything. Even if they get into a fight, 2 seconds later they kiss and make up, and it's all wonderful. And you know, but you don't see the whole journey and the whole process of a relationship. And again, with the struggle, and I've never realized how much I hate Facebook and social media, because I find it to be so bad in being able to, you see so much, but you don't really see anything, because you see a surface image or an image that people want to portray of a relationship, but you're not really seeing deeply into the healthy, natural part of a relationship. You know, the struggles and the whole process, and because we don't see that, we spend so much time thinking, why isn't my relationship like them? Why isn't my life like the instant life that we assume that we want and that we strive for?
Yeah, so I'll jump in and share that, you know, something interesting for me, that you know, it's such a mundane example, but like exercise, you know, I was always into like the stereotypical exercise where it was like burn as much calories, get your body shaking, you know, you need to be sweating and push so that you can lose weight. And then I had some, you know, a physical issue after my third baby, and I had to go to physical therapy, and they introduced me to Pilates. And when I first went to Pilates, I was like, what in the world is this? This is like a waste of time. I'm not sweating, my body's not shaking. And they're like, slow down, take a deep breath, like recenter your body, come back to your core. And it was like, you know, then I would go a little faster, like slow down, you got to do it right. And it took me a long time to get comfortable with it, because I didn't feel I was exercising. But over time, I actually realized how profound, like it as I learned to love and understand what Pilates was, I understood like, no, this is true exercise, because this is working with your body. This is like slowing down and doing it correctly and coming from your core. So why we're saying all this is because in order to introduce proper communication and how to like really build a healthy, loving interaction, it's really about stepping into a different zone. And society, and you know, COVID, as difficult as it was, you know, it is, it really did slow down the whole world. So it's like a lot of what we're saying is even like pre-COVID, you know, COVID in many ways is a big gift to all of us, because it has taken us off the treadmill. But let's say pre-COVID, we've all been on a treadmill. And the truth is, the spiritual world, the emotional world, you know, really building healthy emotional relationships and growing into who we want to be and into the relationship we want is not a treadmill. It's actually, the way I see it, is like, you know, an unpaved road in a forest, and you know, with lots of trees and roadblocks and obstacles. And it's like, there's no, you know, you're not going on those, you know, in the airport, those flat escalators that just, you know, you bring your suitcase and it just brings you for the ride. Like you have to, you know, have your toolbox and cut down trees, and then, you know, go in the wrong way and then start again. It's very slow, and it's very integrated, and it takes a lot of work. So this is all about marriage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how this connects to marriage. And before that, we're gonna connect a little bit I'm gonna introduce some concepts in Kabbalah and connect it to communication. So there's this concept according to Kabbalah that God created the world in 10 steps, like through speech, but 10 different steps. 3 of them were intellectual, like before the world was even created, when he was like planning the world. And then it was the 7 days of the week. And the 7th day ultimately was Shabbat. And that the way he created the world is each human being is a mini world. And whatever was created in the world was also created in us. So when we talk about soul, when we talk about emotions, when we talk about integration, we also have 10 aspects that makes us who we are and that drives us, and that all these 10 steps work together. And the thing is that like the final step, when it came to creation, was Shabbat, where it was like the purpose of creation was manifested, was fulfilled. Why did God make the world? So that we could have this intimacy with him, that we could have this connection, that we could like be together. But there was a process until we got to Shabbat, and every week we have to work and then come back to Shabbat. So the 10th step is when we are actualized, or when something is fulfilled, but there's a process to get there. So before I bring this into marriage and into communication, we're going to go through these 10 steps, these like 10 soul steps, and break them down into, these are the 10 tools to communication. But before we do that, I want to give you, we don't have so much time in the classes. I could do a whole class on just the 10 steps, the 10 aspects of our soul. But because I'm going to introduce it for the 10 steps to communication, I'm just going to give you like a quick overview in a general way, and then we'll bring it into how to communicate. So do you all see the screen? Yeah? Okay. So, and I'm sorry if this is like,
A little esoteric.
Yeah, a little esoteric or hard to like deeply understand, because I want to focus the class on marriage. But I think once I do a general overview and then we bring it into marriage, I think that you guys will all get a deeper understanding. And then if not, we can talk about it more. But so if you see, could you see where I'm pointing with my mouse? Okay, so Chachma is wisdom, insight. It's the first step that's inside of us in our intellect, but on top of that, you see is Keter, is crown, super conscious. So this is like the soul that's like above us, bigger than us, like before it even comes inside of us. Now I'm going to bring this now really, really down to earth. So let's say you have your grandmother, right? She's like, really old, and she lives in a senior center. And every time you go visit her, you feel so bad because you see that she's really lonely. And she's always, saying like, I'm so lonely, I have nothing to do, I'm all alone, I feel disconnected. And you feel that heaviness every time you visit her, again, pre-COVID times. You just feel like you wish you can do something. And one day, you're in the shower or you're biking, you're walking, and all of a sudden this idea out of blue that you like, but like you never thought about, like just comes through you. And it's like, oh my gosh, what if I connected the senior home with the high school, and like, they could do this collaborative program where they like meet together, and the high school can do a mitzvah and tikkun olam, and they could help the senior center. So it's like, it was never in your head before. So this is Kesser, where it was like something out of you that like came through you. And then Chachma, this first one, is like that initial idea. It was like, oh my gosh, wow, like let's connect the high schoolers with the seniors. But it was like, it's just an idea. And then Bina's understanding, it's like, how would that work? Wow, that's so interesting. We would have to figure out carpool, and we'd have to like figure it all out, and I would have to call them and see, and are the high schoolers mature enough? And it's like processing it deeper and deeper and deeper until you have more clarity. again, my goal is to get a general idea so we could talk about this in marriage. So I'm just going to do this quickly. Das is where you have the idea so clear, like, yes, I'm going to pair these teenagers with the seniors. It's so clear in your head. It's like crystallized, like it's almost as if it's like on a piece of paper, you know, like you could visualize it. And that's those are the ideas that are in your head. And then it's, once you have clarity, it starts filtering into your emotions. So now we're ready. And this is all soul. It's like you have these like new ideas and like it's like the part of your soul that's in your intellect. Then the soul continues on into your emotions. Chesed is loving kindness right over here. It's the first emotional attribute of your soul, and where you start feeling so much love and excitement, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make these seniors so happy, and my grandma's gonna feel so happy, and like I'm gonna be saving the world. I'm gonna be saving the high schoolers. I'm gonna be saving the seniors. Like this is so exciting, and your heart's just like so full of joy. But then Gevura kicks in, and Gevura is like boundaries, like, whoa, wait. You're a mom, you know, you have 5 kids, in my case, and you have a job, and you have a bunch of other things going on for your life too. Like, how in the world do you think you're gonna do this? Like, maybe you can't do all of this, you know, and it stops you from your excitement, and it starts analyzing what's realistic, what's not, how much can I do, how much can I not. Tiferes is beauty, balance, and harmony between the two. Where Chesed, you want to do it all, you're so excited. Gevura is telling you, well, no, you can't do it alone. And Tiferes is like, wait, maybe I can start this in 6 months, or maybe I can partner with my friend who has more time, you know, who's, you know, her kids are out of the house, or maybe I can, you know, just start a program. Well, we could start with once a month, or I could do a pilot program. Like once the boundaries came in, you could start formulating an idea that could work with you. Now, a lot of times with our soul, we get this great idea, we get very excited, and then it goes out the window because we get distracted and other things come up and we forget. So Netzach comes in. It's the part of our soul that pushes us and is like, yes, we're going to do this. Okay. Every week for 2 hours on Wednesday from 10 to 12, I am blocking out my schedule and I am making this happen. I'm determined. I'm going to push through. That's Netzach. Then Hod is acknowledgement, perseverance. It's also humility. It's also gratitude, where sometimes you're very determined to do it, but you start having all these excuses. So the acknowledgement is like, you know, recognizing it's like, you know what, I have this idea. I have this determination. I want to do this for my grandmother. I'm so grateful that I have this idea. I'm so grateful that I have the skills. I'm so grateful that I have the you know, the energy to do this, and I'm grateful, and I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the seniors. I'm doing this for the greater good of the world. I'm doing this for God. This is important. So again, it pushes through. Yesod is connection, where you, at that point, you're ready to push through, and you call the senior center and you call the high school, and you make the connection. You say, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. It's out of you. You've already communicated this idea with other people. And Malchus is when the idea is come out in fruition. It's happened, fulfilled. You could relax and you'd be like, wow, like, look, these high schoolers are going every month, every week. They're visiting the seniors are happy, the high schoolers are happy, and you push through. So this is the steps of our soul. Now, I'll just say now we're going to jump into all of these. Also, there's many, many ways to understand these 10 attributes or 10 aspects of our soul. And one of them is these 10 aspects of our soul are also incredible tools of learning how to communicate with others in a relationship. And because today's topic is communication, that's what we're going to focus on. So Azir and I are going to go back and forth, and we're each going to introduce one at a time and go through all 10. So
jumping in over here, I'm going to explain that starting at the top, keter or keser, the Hebrew word keter means crown. And that's kind of the highest level. Doesn't mean it's the most ideal level. What it means is it's the most connected or the most refined level in its purest state. Malchus, which is the last one, is the way we've taken all these levels and brought it down in the most refined way, that in the most practical way that you can turn it into implementation. Now, starting with the first one, with Kesser, which is the crown or superconscious. This is I would say on some level it's a level before communication, but it's more internal communication with who you are and being at peace with who you are. And what that is recognizing that Keter, the crown or God, is really with you in this relationship. It says when creating a child, there's three parts of this relationship. There's the husband, the wife, and God. That in order to have a child, you can't have a child without the godly ability to make it possible. And if you bring God into that relationship, that is the most ideal or the most complete whole level of the relationship. And when you are connected on this level of Kesser, you're connected on this level where you're connected above, so that everything that happens is not happening without godliness and God providing and participating in that relationship. In a practical sense, it's realizing that God is involved in the whole process of your relationship. And, not everybody has the story I'm about to give in their relationship, but everybody has components of their relationship that show that that it's a godly connection. And with myself and Achama, we, we talk about it. We can say, we say we never really have been able to put a finger on what exactly it was. But prior to us getting married, prior to us even dating, I knew I was going to marry Nechama, and I could not put my words on, my finger on what exactly. I didn't really know her, so how could I have known that I was going to marry her? And Nechama as well knew that she was going to marry me. She told her mother, I think at 15 years old, she said, "I know who I'm going to marry," and her mother says, "Who you dating?" And so if you know inherently that there's some sort of connection, or that God is providing that connection, then when things get tough, the communication can still happen, because that you're meant for each other. Sometimes it's more revealed that that you're meant for each other, and sometimes it's less revealed that that it's clear that you're meant for each other. So that's the level of Kesser, where it's you're inherently knowing that there's a greater purpose not a greater purpose, but a greater force that's bringing you together, that's keeping you connected. And when you tap into that, you already have a foundation for your relationship. It doesn't teach you proper communication yet, but it gives you a foundation for the knowledge that you are meant for each other.
So I want to say, I forgot to say that just like, here when I said in the general sense that there's like the intellectual attributes of our soul, then there's the emotional attributes, and then there's like the moving forward. When it comes to communication, there's the three aspects of a communication that is above words. So we always say when we explain communication, we think, okay, communication means words, like the way you speak, the way you express. But what's powerful about this is that before you even get to healthy communication with expression and with words, you first need to fine-tune and build a foundation for nonverbal communication, for deeper communication that's even beyond words. So like, as he said, the Kesser is like the nonverbal communication that is like, you are my soulmate. We are inherently connected, and like our souls are halves of each other. And that knowledge is beyond words. It's bigger, deeper than words. So Kesser, Chachma, and Bina they're all nonverbal communication. So that's Kesser. Now Chachma is the next one. It's insight. It's that first flash of an idea. But when it comes to communication, it's visual, it's sight. What is this? Is that it's a kind of communication that's loving through seeing each other, through gazing at each other, through looking at each other. And it's amazing how, you know, body language is like 90% of communication. You know, people say like the hardest thing nowadays with that, like almost all our communication is through text or social media, is that we can misread or misjudge so much of what someone's saying because you don't see their face, you know, you don't see their eyes, you don't see their smile. Like they could be feeling so much love and it could come across totally not because they forgot to like send their emoji hug, you know. It's like you don't really know what's going on, because when their heart is there and they're smiling at you and they're looking at you and they just emanating joy, they don't even have to say anything, you feel loved. And this is the kind of thing that's like, I know with me and Ezzy, a lot of times Ezzy comes home from work and it's like the worst time of day because it's like dinner and bath time and chaos and kids. And it's like, both of us want that connection, but it's hard. He's tired and I'm like, you know, my sleeves rolled up, totally busy. And what we both realize is that often just looking at each other and smiling and showing with our face that we're so happy to see each other, it speaks volumes, and it emotionally fills both of us so much. Like I know when Ezzy comes home and if he looks at me and his body is saying, I'm so happy to see you, that's it. Like that's all I need. I feel connected. And this is true also, like even with kids, you know, we say like kids their bottom line is that they want to be seen. And sometimes when they don't feel seen, they need to be seen. So they act crazy, or they scream, or they yell, or they throw things, or they have like crazy behavior. And it's like, see me, see me, see me. And it's like so amazing that, like, I know even with my kids, something that I'm working on is sometimes it's so simple. If we just stop and like they're doing something and you just look at them and you smile, but you smile with your heart in an authentic way, and you're just acknowledge with your body that you love them and you notice them. It's like you don't even need to say anything because they got what they needed. So that's what chachma is. It's building that body communication and looking at each other with love and recognition. Again, that's building foundation of love and acceptance and connection.
Okay, so moving down the ladder, if you will, you come to Bina, which is understanding, and so you've made this eye contact, you've made this connection, and I just want to add that not all of these things are happening every single second. Or not all of them are ideal for every single second. You have to tap into different ones at different points to be able to get to the perfection or to the complete picture. So Bina is the concept of really understanding and intuiting what what your spouse is wanting or is trying to share. So this is, I don't know if any of you have seen what's that?
It's listening.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you have seen the thing on YouTube, and if you haven't, just go to YouTube and search. It's not about the nail, but this is it's a joke, but it's a very meaningful, beautiful thing. It's a woman sitting with a nail in her forehead, and she's talking to her husband, and she's sharing with him and telling him, I'm feeling this pain in my head, and he's like, well, you got a nail there, why don't we just take out the nail and you'll feel much better. And she's like, oh, you don't understand. You don't understand. And, and she's like, it's not about the nail, and she's like talking about all her sweaters are getting ripped every time she puts them on. And he's like, well, let's just take out the nail, so the guy's just trying to fix it and the woman's just trying to share. And so Bina is just taking that time to stop, is not trying to fix it. This is obviously for the man, not trying to fix it for the woman. For the woman, just trying to be there for her husband in the equivalent, where when she wants to listen to what they're really saying from their heart. If they're having a bad day, are they saying, I'm having a bad day and I want you to come and fix it? Or are they saying I'm having a bad day and I want you to come over and give me a hug? I want you to come over to reassure me. I want you to come over and be there with me during my pain. And same thing when, if a man is coming over to his wife and, talking about whatever it may be, that, don't react in the way you may want, but react in the way that he may need. An example that I always think about is when I got married, and I used to buy Nechama these flowers, I bought her what I wanted, because I thought what I wanted looked good. But Nechama would take them, and she was like, "Okay, thank you," and put them into the vase. But once I took the time to understand what she wanted, so I was listening to what was important to her. No longer did I buy flowers that I liked. I bought flowers that she liked, and therefore I liked them as well. So Bina is getting to that place of being able to be there together, to be there together with your heart, with your spouse. In communication, when your relationship, I don't want to say get strained, but when you have these intense times, sometimes you want to say something, she wants to say something, you both are clashing, and you're on top of each other. And if you stop and you facilitate that healthy communication, then both of you are heard from your heart, heard from the core place. There was this one book, I think I bought it we were on at an airport, and our flight was delayed like 3 hours, and I needed something, and I walked into one of these stores, and we bought this book, 10 Minutes to Better Communication. I think that's what it was, but it may have been somewhere else. And Nechama and I began to implement that, where it was Nechama had this thing that she wanted to share. I had my perspective on that thing, and neither of us were being heard. And when we began to implement this 10-minute rule, Nechama would share. For 10 minutes, I couldn't get involved. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't argue. I had to just listen for those 10 minutes. And trust me, in the beginning, it wasn't very easy. And then later, it was my turn to share for 10 minutes, and she couldn't say anything. And she was ripping at her hair, wanting to share, to argue back. But it gave us both the ability to share from our heart and to feel fully heard in that process. So that's what Bina is that process of understanding and getting to that place within your relationship where you're truly able to understand and connect with the other person.
So, in other words, I don't know if any of you or some of you have heard the concept of holding space. So it's this concept of like, when someone is in pain or struggling or communicating, instead of like jumping in and solving it and like sharing all your advice, the concept of holding space, it's like almost like a hug, but it's a nonverbal hug where you're like, I'm just going to hold this. I'm just going to hold you. Again, it's not physical. It's just emotional. It's like, I'm going to allow this. I hear you. I acknowledge it. You're just validating it. You're not, so that's what this is. And that's why these three, Keser, Chachma, Bina, are all nonverbal, because this kind of level of listening it's beyond words. It's about showing your spouse that you're really listening to them. Now, we're going to pause for a second. We're going to continue, but actually this week's Torah portion is Chaya Sarah, which is the life of Sarah. But actually, so Abraham's wife Sarah passes away, and their son Yitzchak, Isaac, gets married in this week's Torah portion, and he gets married to a woman named Rebecca. And it's a very interesting passage that we're going to read, and that I think it's powerful because it actually is in this week's Torah portion, but it kind of highlights this like nonverbal communication. Should I read or?
You can read, yeah.
Oh, but how do we? 1 second. Okay. So it's 67. Nonetheless, all this did not suffice to convince Isaac that Rebekah was worthy to be his mother's Sarah's successor. Therefore, Isaac brought Rebekah into the tent, placing his household's domestic affairs under her control. From the moment she assumed this role, it became clear that Rebekah was exactly like his mother Sarah, for the ongoing miracles that had occurred in Sarah's mare when she was alive once again resumed. The oil lamp Rebecca lit on Friday remained lit until the following Friday. Even though it only held, sorry.
I need to go lower.
Yeah. No, the other way. Okay. Even though it only held enough oil for one day, even a small amount of the bread she baked sufficed to satisfy hunger, and a cloud hovered above the tent. Seeing how she was blessed in these ways, Isaac became fully convinced that Rebekah was indeed worthy of being his mother Sarah's successor and married Rebekah. She became his wife and he loved her. Isaac was then consoled for the loss of his mother. So just to explain, Sarah there was 3 miracles that always was in her tent. There was a cloud that always protected it, like God's cloud, and her bread always stayed fresh for the whole week, and her Shabbat candle lasted all week. And these miracles left when she died, and then Rebecca came into the tent and these miracles came back. So it's so interesting. It's that he was observing her and like watching her and was like, what is this woman about? And then when he saw her soul, essentially, when he saw that like her soul was actually in the spirit of Sarah and that like her soul was special because all these miracles came back, it says, then he married her, then she became his wife, and then he loved her. And it's a powerful message here because it didn't say he fell in love and like, you know, he came and just like fell over heels over her and she was beautiful and like he just like, it was romance and that was it. It was like he observed her, he watched her, and then he married her, and then he loved her. And it's what it's saying is like love, first of all, takes work, but to truly love someone else, you have to this nonverbal communication. It's like you have to look and see and give space for their soul. Like with Rebecca, her soul she had this like lofty soul that these miracles came through, but everyone's soul is lofty. Everyone has a part of God inside of them. Everyone has something really profound, really beautiful. We all are made in the image of God. Everyone has something special. So how do we really love our spouse? It's by stepping back and if we need that reminder and that reset of like, wait, why do I love my spouse? Like, you know, who is he? Who is she? Stopping and creating space and being like, what's in his heart? Like what's in his soul? Like what makes him or her special? What are their gifts? And observing and giving space for that. And that's how the love stays ignited and keeps being, you know, growing and growing and growing. So that's the nonverbal. Should we stop and take any questions?
I'll just add one thing and then we'll take questions. Is for me, growing up, you know, having lost my mother at a very young age, I never understood this passage that he got married, she became his wife, he loved her, and then he was consoled for the loss of his mother. And growing up, I always saw it as, but before I had gotten married, and then even after I got married, my assumption was, oh, marriage is what's going to console me for the loss of my mother. So Nechama should be, so to speak, replacing my mother in my family tree, so to speak. And when over time, and really as you know, as I began to look into the depth of what marriage is really all about, I saw it very differently. Is that he married her. So yes, I married Nechama. She became his wife. That's the natural thing, is after you get married, she became his wife. Then he loved her. Once I was able to love Nechama for who she was, not as my mother, but for who she was, then we could have a peaceful relationship between the two of us. Then, only then am I consoled for the loss of my mother, because our relationship is whole. And only then do I stop turning back to my mother to be the completer of who I am, because essentially we complete each other. And not that I don't need my mother and that relationship, but you have it as a completion between the two of you. I always found that thing that you know, I didn't understand that, and once I understood it, it actually brought a lot of consolation as well.
Let's go back to the other chart.
Before we go further.
Yeah, we'll pause for a minute if anyone wants to like jump in and ask a question, comment, share. Anyone? Okay. I guess this is like crystal clear, guys.
Crystal clear or way beyond you guys?
Okay, well, hopefully it's good. Okay,
All right,
so we'll move on. So I'll just, okay, we're up to DAS.
36 anyways.
Yeah, we're up to DAS. Now we're starting to move to emotions, which is going to be verbal communication. And DAS is not knowledge concentration, but it's actually, it's like the funnel between what I said before, the intellect, or in this case, the nonverbal communication, and we're going into verbal communication.
Okay.
So now we're gonna, yeah.
So now we're up to kindness. Now this one is somewhat obvious, but probably one of the harder ones to implement. So this is chesed. This is kindness, or communicating with loving kindness. Very often in our relationships, we've become so comfortable with each other that we forget, so to speak, the romance disappears, and it just becomes the day-to-day, and our spouse becomes somewhat like our roommate or our housemate, and we stop thinking that we need to be gentle and communicate in a loving way with the spouse, whether it be take out the garbage, go do this, go do that, whatever it may be. We stop having that loving communication and that loving relationship. And sometimes we'll come home, we'll say, I love you. We'll say, give a spouse a kiss, whatever it may be. There isn't that, I guess over time, sometimes there isn't that warmth and that communication that really is important in a relationship. But at the same time, it's there's a terminology, I'm not sure where in Jewish thought it is, but it's a famous thing is dvarim hayotzim min halev nechnasim al halev. Words that leave the heart enter the heart. And if we can stop and focus on the pieces of love that we have and communicate that, that's what will truly, that's like a component of what will truly connect us with the other person. Even if we're having a hard day, even if our relationship is strained for whatever moment, if we take a moment and we stop and we say, what is it that I truly love about my spouse? And then communicate that and say, even though we're fighting, even though whatever's happening, I love how you A, B, C, and D. And communicating that relationship of love verbally is core into the connection. There was something I was going to say, and then I just lost my train of thought.
Well, it keeps the love ignited for sure.
Oh, and I was thinking of what's a practical tool to use to be able to get us to communicate our love. And I had seen a video where this guy had to go around for 24 hours, and he had to say yes to everything. And this was it was two friends, and do you want to do you want to clean my floors? And he had to say yes. And he had, no matter what it was, he had to say yes. And I was thinking, if we take that concept and we apply it into our relationship, and we start with 24 hours. 24 hours, we can't say anything negative to our spouse. We have to only say positive things. We can only say loving things. So if you're feeling frustrated, don't say anything for 24 hours, but take each one of those challenging moments and turn it into saying something positive. And that's a way to kickstart this, and only say real things. Don't just make up things. That's a way to kickstart this, this component of loving communication.
I just want to say before I move on to the next one that the important key here is it needs to be authentic. There's, like we talked about last time 2 weeks ago, about connecting in an authentic way, and not being like, okay, this is what we have to say and this is how we have to spend time. So the same thing with love. It's like, oh, a couple, I have to say I love you, I love you, I love you. It could become so empty and so, it doesn't mean anything. So, But there's times that we really do feel love and we really feel appreciation, and it's like, catch those moments when it doesn't matter where you are, what's going on. And like, when you think you have to be loving and you're not, like, just be authentic. And when you feel your heart fill up with appreciation, find those moments and express them, because the other person, we know we want to hear it from the other person. So we could think, of course, you know, I love you. But when you're feeling it, just, again, like, take a picture of it and express it. Okay, Kavura is boundaries. So this is really important, because when we're feeling upset and hurt, or we really don't like something, how do we communicate in a way that brings closeness and keeps you together without causing separation? And that could be really, really tricky. So I'm going to share some tips. First of all, I'm going to bring us back to remember from 2 weeks ago when I ended off, one of the things I ended off with is that a tip is that when we're really highly triggered and really, really upset and emotional, the best thing is, like, if we feel like we can't control ourselves and we just want to scream and yell, is to acknowledge that. And first of all, that's the beginning of starting to set up a boundary, and to say, I am so upset right now. Like, I'm going to say things that are really, really hurtful, and I need to take the time to figure out what's coming up for me and what's mine and what's yours. And I'm so upset. Like, the conversation has to end to protect both of us, and I'm going to go take care of my feelings. So that's the first boundary. It's really, really, really important. Like, if you start feeling that it's not being productive and there's no love in the communication, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be bad. And it's better to wait even a day, 2, 3, and wait for the right time and just be polite to each other, you know, than to work it out when you're both really triggered and upset. And then, so that's key. But once you're calm and clear, and you're not like so triggered, and you've worked through your own emotions and you know what's coming up for you, it's really important to set boundaries. So certain things, like, let's say your spouse is really upset and speaking harsh to you, it's really important to say, I'm not okay to be being spoken to that way, and to express that. Or to say, you know what, I could see you're really upset. I'm going to have to walk away, and I'm going to end this conversation now until you're able to communicate your needs or your hurt in a compassionate way that doesn't hurt me in the process. I love you. I see you're upset, but I have feelings too. And I'm always ready to hear it. But, you know, when you could say it in an iMessage, when you could say it in a way that I feel that you still love me, because I'm not a bad person, you know? So that's, you know, one way to express that. Another thing is, like, let's say, you know, 2 people got upset, and then one person's ready to move on and the other person's not. And, you know, let's say I'm still upset, and Ezzy's like, okay, whatever, move on. We worked it out. But let's say I'm still upset. A boundary and a communication could be like, I see you're ready to move on, but you know what? I'm different than you. Maybe it's a woman thing. Maybe I'm more emotional, but I'm still upset. So in order to move on and talk about other things, I have a need that I need to be able to talk about it more until I feel better. Again, it's clear communication, it's boundaries, it's expressing yourself, but without hurting the other person. And another just example, is just like, you're talking to your spouse, they're on your phone. You could say, you know what, it's really important for me that when I talk to you, that I feel like you're fully listening to me. So while I talk to you, can you please put away your phone? And I have a joke with Ezzy. I say, oh, your girlfriend's out, you know, with the phone, like he's cheating on me. So, and I'm like, oh, I can't talk to you when your girlfriend's there. Sorry. So let me know when you're ready to focus on me. But again, I could talk about boundaries for the entire class, but this is a really important thing. And the main thing is authenticity, clarity, express your needs. But once you're calm, and you need to say it in a compassionate way, we're not enemies. We're on the same team. We love each other, but so communicate in that kind of way. Okay.
Okay. So we're running out of time, so we're going to speed up a little bit. We're on the next one is Tiferes, which is beauty, balance, and also compassion. And when it Tiferes is taking, so we've recognized the greatness in our spouse. We've recognized the restraint that we have to have with our spouse. Tiferes comes in and says, let's focusing on the positive of each individual situation. I would say it's somewhat tied into chesed on some level, but it's also connected to Gvura, and we can go into that more in depth at another time. But when we have situations where something may come up, is focusing on the positive of that situation. So maybe they didn't do let's say Nechama I helped Nechama with cleaning up, and she didn't appreciate the way I cleaned up everything, but she focuses on the fact that I cleaned up. So she'll say, wow, I'm so grateful that you've cleaned up. It's focusing on the good of each individual situation, and vice versa. If she did something and maybe it didn't turn out to fully to my liking, but focusing on the positive of that situation enables us to have a healthier communication and healthier appreciation for each other.
I just want to explain also why that's compassion, because it's so easy for us to be compassionate to ourselves and be like, I'm exhausted. Okay, I did the best I could, or like I'm juggling a million things, so I came a little 10 minutes late, big deal. But when the other person, it's like, where were you? What's going on? Why didn't you finish your job? Why didn't you so compassion is like, realize they're human. They're trying their best. They're showing up as best as they can. So it's like, again, like what Ezzy's saying, it's like, you know what? I was hoping that he would clean up the whole kitchen, and he took out the garbage, and like, thank you for taking out the garbage. Like, he's human. He's doing the best he can, and like really celebrating whatever is going right.
Best I can do is take out the garbage. That's it.
Okay. Now, Netzach over here is victory, is perseverance, is pushing through. This is like the kind of communication when you're driven and you want something to get done and you want your spouse to be involved in this. It's like, and we laugh about this all the time because I get in these modes where I become like, we laugh. I'm like, okay, I became a bulldozer, and I'm like, this is what we need to do, and this is what's going to happen, and da-da-da. And it's like, and then I get like so focused on the end goal or the results. And then I'm like not even connecting to him. I'm connecting to what I want to do. And then I'm just like shouting orders. And as he's like, whoa, like you never hired me. It's like, I don't work for you. And it was a long process for me to like slow down and really work on this, because it's like when I was so focused on what I need to do or what I need to accomplish or what needs to happen, it's like I literally just was only focusing on the goal. And it's something more that personally that I had to work on, was to realize like it doesn't matter how focused I am, like as he's a person, and if I want him to be on board and want to help me, then I have to show up with love, because if he loves me, of course he's gonna want to help me because he feels loved. But if I'm bulldozing him, it's the opposite. He's like, you're not talking to me with love, and it will turn him off from wanting to help me. So some things that have helped me is instead of like trying to slow my process down and not think about the goal, but think about him, and then expressing my desire, like to be like, instead of having it all figured out and shouting orders, to say, oh, it would be so great if, we can do whatever X, Y, and Z with the kids today. And what do you think? And how can we get this done? Or, this holiday is coming and I would love to, make this and this and this. And I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed. And like, how can we do this?
And say it straight. Would you be able to help me with?
And would you be able to help me? I'm just thinking if there's anything else. Yeah, so the main thing is like slowing down and getting the other person on board, expressing your desires and appreciating and realize it's a gift. And also the other thing is for both sides, like when you express your desires and communicate what you would love and what you want, it has to be done in a way that you understand that your spouse is human and they might say no. The same way I have the right to say no to Ezzy if he's asking something, if I can't, and I need to know that that I'm going to be loved and respected even if I say no. It's the same thing back. It's like, I would love this. And then Ezzy, if he could, he will, if I say it in a loving way. And if he can't, it's okay. And I needed to work on communicating that way, that it's like, it would be great if you help me. And if you don't, that's okay.
Okay. Moving on to Hod, which is over here. Acknowledgement or perseverance it's a very simple one. That's one that we oftentimes forget in our relationships, is say thank you. Our spouses put in hours and hours, and it's not that one does more than the other, is that we're each putting in hours and hours in our relationships, and we need to be able to take the time to show our appreciation for the work that they, for what they do. Stop. This really connects to making that connection. But stop. Look in their eyes. Say thank you. Verbalize what it is that they've done, and even if they do it all the time, but to take stock and show your appreciation. It's really the concept of what why we have prayer 3 times a day, is in our relationship with God. We need to stop and say thank you for everything that he's given us. If we don't take that time to stop, we never really recognize that our life and our gifts and our blessings come from God. And if we take that time, what we need to do is take that time to say thank you and to share our appreciation. I remember in the beginning when we got married, there was one situation where Nahum and I were talking, and I said I had worked really hard on something, and I didn't need any major accolades or anything for what I did, but I just wanted that the time to stop and say thank you. And Nahum looked at me and was like, "What do you want from me?" And I said just say thank you. Just appreciate what it is that I'm doing, because I'm going out of my way and giving up of my time to provide for, whether it's for her or for our family. And it's not that I'll stop doing it if I don't get the thank you, but it motivates me and it encourages me to do more when I get the thank you. And I know vice versa, is that when a Hama works and slaves away and prepares for whatever it may be, and I just take it for granted, then she feels like she was a slave. But if she gets a thank you and just gets acknowledged and recognized for what she's been doing, she feels more, wow, I helped provide and I helped make whatever it may be happen, and now I'm motivated to do it again next time.
It's one of the things that's so, I guess, ironic or sad that, when it comes to the mailman or, the cleaning woman that comes to our house, or, anyone who helps us, it's like, of course we say thank you, because like they're not so close to us, so we need to say thanks. But the people who are closest to us, it's like, why should I say thank you? You owe it to me or whatever. But they're the people that matter the most in our life, and they're the ones that we want to nurture and stay connected and build love. So they're the most important to acknowledge. But I just want to add also to the concept of prayer, like, prayer is not really for God. We don't wake up and say, Modani, thank you, God, for a new day, because God needs our thanks. We wake up and say, thank you, God, for a new day, so that we feel joy, so that we feel gratitude, so that we feel love, so that we remember, wow, it's actually a gift that I have this new day. So prayer is for us. So in addition to building that love and showing our spouse, making them feel good and expressing gratitude, every time we say thank you, even if they don't care and they don't need it, it makes us realize what they're doing for us, and it builds more love and appreciation inside of us. So it's win-win. Yesod, moving along, is, remember what I said, is that once you have the idea, Yesod is when you actually make the connections, when it's outside of you and you communicate it to someone else. Yesod also, when it comes in a relationship, it's physical intimacy, because it's connection. And so I want to just share 2 things about this. Number one is that, we were building this ladder, right? So, and we talked in the beginning about this instant gratification. We want our intimacy to be just like, you know, fireworks all the time, and we want to feel always connected and always love and everything. But Yesod is here on the bottom. It's saying you work on these all the time, and the nonverbal communication and bringing God into your relationship and knowing that you're inherently connected and listening to each other and complimenting and saying thank you. Automatically, your physical intimacy, your Yesod, your connection, your intimacy will blossom and be beautiful and will really stay loving and stay connected. And another just thing that's more like Kabbalistic or whatever, that there's Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, he wrote what's called Shir HaShirim, which is like the book of love between the Jewish people and God. It's like this love book. And what he says is that he's like the Torah, like learning and prayer is like kissing and hugging God. It's like intimate. It's like being intimate with God. So just another little small thing is that in addition to this being physical intimacy, that it grows and develops through healthy communication, but also another way to really develop more love in your relationship is when you're sitting down at the end of the day, you could talk about the news and the chaos and the craziness and all the depressing things. But another way to build healthy communication is sit down and like learn Torah together, or read something uplifting together, or talk about positivity, you know, and like grow together and bring spirituality into your communication, into your relationship, will automatically up-level your communication and bring meaning into your interactions. Okay. And I'll finish off. Malchus, remember what I said in the general way, is that Malchus is when it's complete, it's done, it's actualized. Like you had this great idea and now your vision is complete, it's in motion, it's happening. So Malchus, when it comes to relationship, is you've done all this work, and Malchus means day to day. It's like, you know, can you go pick up the kids? Can you take that out of the fridge? Can you do this? Can you like, you're just operating. When are we going to sleep? It's just like the moment to moment, living together, day-to-day life. And what it's saying is this concept is that how do we have a relationship where even the day-to-day, even the moment-to-moment, you know, subtle, small communication feels loving and feels connected, and the day-to-day, you know, rushing around is meaningful, is you build all that communication as you can and express your love and be compassionate and set up boundaries and, you know, express gratitude, all of these things, then your day-to-day life of, you know, coexisting and partnership and everything will just, you will feel good energy, you will feel connected, you will feel loving even in the day-to-day. And ultimately, Malchus is Shabbat, Malchus is actualized, it's completion, and this is really the highest level where it's like, ultimately it's like being able to you know, partner together in a very beautiful way where you're like really integrated and you're really beautiful partners and you're harmonious and you're just working and flowing really well together. And, you know, it's not about all the highs, it's about groundedness and like just living in a beautiful way. But all of that work ultimately sows the seeds for that kind of end result. And we started in the class how Malchus is what we all want. We all want to live in Malchus for ourselves, in our relationships. We want all our visions to be in Malchus. We want to have everything we want, but this is so, like, it's possible. What you want is possible. What we want is possible, but we have to be willing to sow the seeds and build and grow and do the work. And it's not an easy ride. Like I said, we're not on a treadmill like we think, or like society tells us. We're paving a new road every day in a unpaved forest. And
the example that's given during the Sheva Brachot, after a couple gets married, it says, you know, you should it says you should build a binyan adayad, an everlasting building. Why does it use the idea of an everlasting building? You're building a building in a marriage, because that's really what a marriage is all about, is one brick at a time. Is that you're building this building to get to the to the complete building setting. You know, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So our marriages aren't complete in a day. That's, you know, it's over many, many, many years. And, you know, do we make that progress? And even when we make that progress, we're continuously building new floors and new levels on top of the first one to continuously strengthen the building that we're building.
All right.
And that's a wrap.
Would anyone like to share? Reflect?
Not all at once.
We'd love to hear from you. But if not, it's been lovely chatting and talking.
I just want to say that, you know, I've heard a number of lectures and taken courses because I've been fascinated about the 10 Sephirot, but this is a highly unique and very more personal relationship view of the 10 Sephirot. And so I thank you for this
Thank you.
unique and very inspirational and highly personal approach. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
so much. I'm so glad.
Guys.
You're welcome.
That was really beautiful, and I love your personal touches and your examples from your own
Mhm.
life, because otherwise it's a little too arbitrary, and so it's a lot easier to understand and relate to. So I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing. Lisa and I were talking during the presentation. When we first moved here, 1975, there was a movement, a marriage encounter.
Jewish marriage encounter.
Well, there was actually, it
There
turned
were
out to
a
be the other
Any religion, but the one we
faith-based
went to
groups
was
had,
Jewish.
yeah, a Jewish marriage encounter where we'd have these, just like you did, lectures. And then the other thing is that we would go back on our own and write about our thoughts of the lectures. And, not lecture, I don't want to say lectures, but of the talks. And this is very similar. I mean, we are talking about things as you guys were talking about. So wonderful.
And we've looked back at our marriage encounter books, which
Yes.
we've hidden somewhere in the attic.
And actually, I could
And
write.
it's a
I
little
could
bit
read it.
embarrassing. It's a little bit hard to read how we were when we were first married.
But it was very open
That
after
was
we
very-
heard these discussions.
Yeah.
I'm going to expect a one-page essay from everybody by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Homework.
Oh, please, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was wonderful. See you in a
Thank you
couple
for
weeks.
joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Did you want to?
Destiny, unmute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, part of I liked, some of the time that you talked about the jump starting, or whatever, like what to do when something is difficult, or if Nechama, you talked about like when you're bulldozing or whatever. I guess, sorry, and I'm like really tired, so I'm trying to formulate my thoughts, but if you're in a rut, like I kind of feel like we're in a rut. We're like together all the time, working from home, like doing everything with the kids, like just
Send them out
very.
with the kids.
What?
Send them out with the kids.
No, but like, just very like transactional, like roommates. Then which of these 10 steps do you recommend maybe we focus on, or like, I don't know, do you have a jump starting pearl?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I would start, you've done the Nurture Heart Approach curriculum, right? For your kids. I would start with Nurture Heart Approach for each other. And for those of you who don't know, you're laughing, and you could talk about, say why you're laughing. But I mean, just like the compassion one, like recognizing that you're both exhausted, you're both worn out, you're both overwhelmed, you're both at home, your kids are home. It's really hard, really difficult situation. And if you each can recognize that in each other, how difficult you're both feeling, like how exhausted and overwhelmed you're both feeling, and recognize like even the tiniest things, like lower the expectations like to zero, have no expectations from each other because you're both at your wit's end. And then any little thing is more than zero. And to recognize that, like, you know what, you're so exhausted and you stopped and you gave me a hand today and that meant so much to me. And like, whatever, like we're all trying our best. We're all human. We all have tons of flaws. We all are imperfect. We all are overwhelmed, especially this situation, but like we're also always trying, and we're always trying to show up as our best self and give our best. And if we each are committed to focus on those things and highlight that and notice that and recognize that, then that's like the best fuel for our soul. And for us to be each other's cheerleaders and bring that out in each other, like that will fuel more positivity, more positivity, more positivity.
I'll add one thing, which this took me a very long time to truly embrace this. But is this working? Was it muted? Okay. So this took me a very long time to embrace this concept. And I think at times I'm still, working on embracing this, but it was being okay with whatever I want is not going to happen. And Hama and I both being okay with whatever we want may not happen. Our relationship is more important than whatever it may be. And Hama always uses the example of, and they might eat, just eggs for dinner, and that's okay. They don't have to have anything fancy for dinner. And but if I'm trying to, if she's bulldozing for whatever it is that she needs to make happen, and I have, there are some times where we have deadlines and things that actually have to happen. But a lot of times it's our own desires that we've our own goals and our own desires that we put on ourselves, and our own expectations of ourselves for that day. And so what happens is, I'm focused on what I want, she's focused on what she wants. And so you're right, it becomes very transactional because I don't have time to see her, she doesn't have time to see me, and we both have our own goals that we want to do. But sometimes we have to just let our goals fall apart and realize that, go back to the first step, is that Hashem is really going to, ultimately going to take care of everything. And our relationship is really what's most important.
Yeah, dropping the expectations is really helpful. I know that for me, when Ezzy, like if I would sleep in and he would watch the kids, I was so frustrated because I'd get up and they were like in pajamas with like food all over them. The house was upside down, like every toy in the milk, it was like, just like, what in the world is going on here? And I couldn't help being annoyed. I'm like, what is it worth if I'm going to get up and this house is upside down? Now I'm going to have to clean it. And it was like, I felt annoyed at him, and it took, I see the smiles, but I will tell you, it took I still have to work on it, but it's for me to have to train myself and to be like, 1 second, he is letting me sleep in and giving me love by watching the kids so I can sleep in. Like, and I had to come to a point to be like, am I willing to receive that gift with the full package or not? But like, how can I get upset at him because he didn't also clean up the house and take out the garbage and wash the dishes and clean up the toys and get the kids dressed and watch them while I slept till 10 o'clock in the morning? It's like, so I have an expectation that I want to sleep in and come out and the house is clean so I don't have to stress. But like, that's my expectation. Like, so why would he want to help me and let me sleep in if no matter what I do, no matter what he does, I'm still going to focus on what's going wrong? It's like lose-lose. And, I have to do the work for him. Like I hated it, and I felt so hurt when I would try so hard. Let's say he needed my help with something, like with work, right? Like, oh, Nechama, can you edit this or can you do this? And then I would try, and it was like, I didn't do it, well enough or in time enough or this or that. And it's like, forget it. Like, hire someone else. Like, I don't need to do this for you. I only wanted to help and kept showing up when it got to a point where there was an expectation. It's like, would you be willing to do this for me? I would really appreciate whatever you can do is great. Thank you so much. You know, it's like you want to be treated with respect and appreciated for what you can do. And like, we're not clones of each other and we do things differently. And appreciation is going to bring more positivity and ignite more interest. And when, by the way, for women, when we receive with gratitude and with beauty and we say like, thank you so much, like you were so loving, like it was so kind of you to do that, I feel so loved, like you let me sleep in, or you took out the kids for an hour, like it was the biggest gift. We become so, and the men, you could argue with me or tell me if you agree, but that's what makes men attracted to us. When we're so gratitude and we're so happy and we're so appreciative and we express our love and we receive their love and we recognize like that was hard for you and you did it and I appreciate it, and you're like and like I'm your queen and I'll receive it and I'll appreciate it, then they're like it ignites their manly inborn innate desire to make us happy. But if it's not working and they're trying and we're just like they're like, forget it. It's like I'm gonna lose. I'm not gonna, why try? I'm exhausted. Like it's not worth it. They need to feel that you could.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what you could always say is, you're really gonna let me sleep in? But what am I gonna do about cleaning up the house? And they'll say, don't worry, sleep in and we'll get the house done too.
Right. It's learning how to communicate to a man. Seriously, it's an art. But the man's soul inherently desires to make their wife happy. They can't help it. It's inborn in them, but we just need to.
You just have to allow us to make you happy.
Right. And we need to step into feminine energy, which is knowing that we're worth it and we're the queen and we deserve it and we're grateful and like we're worthy of being loved and pampered, and it's like we have to step into that, and then our husbands become more and more attractive to us, which is attracted to us, which is the funniest thing, because we think like, they're attracted to our strength and we could have it all figured out and we could do it all and we're going to accomplish. And it's like, actually, it's like they're married to masculine energy. It's like they want the opposite. So that's a whole nother actually, this is great because that's going to be next in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the difference between men and women. So I was going to say, oh no, this is like a whole nother conversation, but then it's good. We have a class for that. Did that help, Denny?
We'll tell you in 2 weeks.
Okay, fair enough. Try it out and then we'll see.
That's why we have 2 weeks break, to give you practice time. So 1 week to get your essay written, the next week to let us know how it worked out.
No, but really, it's a big shift to realize like, it's so hard because we both have so many needs and we have our own needs that we think like, how can I stop and take care of you when I'm so broken myself and I'm so exhausted myself? Like I need to take care of me. I don't have time for you. But it's so profound when we switch it and we say, I'll take care of you and you take care of me. And then it's so beautiful because then you have this interdependence and this love, and it feels so much better to give and love to someone else than to feel like we're all alone and we have to take care of ourselves. But practice that. Like, you know what? I'm going to show up and notice you and recognize you, and you show up and recognize me. And I'm going to let go of worrying about my needs, and I'm going to trust you. And it's practice and joking about it and being authentic with each other, and, just be real and just work it through. And yeah, we're going to wrap up. But the main thing is like, you're each other's lovers, you're partners, you need each other. Like you're not against each other, work together. And like, there's nothing more worth it than investing in a relationship. All right.
By the way, if any of you guys have thoughts over the week, feel free to shoot an email, something, we can incorporate, whatever your questions may be. Something I'd also want to talk about is the, is for what happens if you're not married and the initial building that connection, is something that I would want to include as well.
Yeah, and over the next 2 weeks, if you have questions, we could open up next time with like what's on your mind. Did you practice these things? What worked? What didn't work? Maybe we'll try to prepare a little.
I'm going to read the best essay. All righty.
All right. Laila Tov. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.